Welcome back, everyone. It is July 13th, and I've got just a little bit of stuff to update my build thread or my video list with for the Daytona Coupe. So, what has happened since the last video that I put out is I focused on a couple of things. So, one was trying to figure out how I wanted to route the PDB harness inside the car. A lot of guys will take this harness and they'll run it right through the firewall and then bring all that wire around inside in this other, cluster of wires, and then have to tuck it down underneath to go into the foot box. So what this harness contains that you use is the clutch position safety switch connector, which goes to a switch on top of the clutch mechanism, and then there's the accelerator pedal position connector that you need. There's a fuel pump wire so that the Coyote control pack controls the fuel pump, so that wire gets tied into the fuse block that's underneath here. And then there are two additional wires. One is a ignition coil initialization, if you will. It's essentially when the key comes on, it powers up all the electronics for the control pack. And then the last wire is what they call an SMR, or start motor request, and that wire is actually connected here on the start post for the ignition. That runs directly down, ties in, and goes off to the computer. So that took a little bit of effort. So I basically modified this so that I could still remove this panel underneath by essentially just removing the panel with the grommet, and then sliding this panel into place, and then reattaching the panel with the grommet, and then that also fits into this lip that's built in here, so it maintains that look. But that gives me the ability to pull that top panel off should I ever need to, and not have to worry about disconnecting the harness and pulling wires or having the panel all tangled up in other wires. So that was a good thing. The other things that I've worked on are the main power connections. So I mounted the mega fuse, or the 250 amp fuse, and then you'll see all the large gauge power cables. So from the battery, and that's I've changed out my battery from the large Optima battery to a recommended Odyssey battery, which is small enough that when you need to, you can actually get it out from underneath the car, out through underneath the steering rack and down through the bottom of the car. So that's important with the Coyote, because I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be sitting right here. Expansion, coolant expansion tank, the air intake and filter, all that stuff occupies space there. The radiator hoses, it's just a ton of stuff that's kind of in that space. And guys say you can get the battery out through the top. You just have to take the air intake off, and then maybe disconnect the MAF, and I just don't want to have to deal with that. So I set this up so that I was able to mount the battery, and then tested that I can actually get the battery out of the mount and then rotated and down through the openings in the bottom of the car. So anyway, but then we'll have the main battery going from, or the main power cable, which is a 4-gauge cable, or actually, this is a 4-gauge cable going from the battery. It'll come up, that blue tape marks approximately where the starter is going to be located based on measurements from the center of the motor mount back to where the starter lugs are, but it's still, I don't know exactly where that's going to sit in the car, so I'm just really leaving things a little loose and open for now until we're at that point. And then from the starter, another 4-gauge cable, it's going to run up and comes up into the battery side of the fuse. And then off of the battery side of the fuse, you can see the smaller cable. It's kind of running down loosely underneath here and kind of threaded around. That goes to the alternator. And then there is another 4-gauge cable running from the fused side of the fuse into the PDB, or power distribution block. And then also a 6-gauge cable running from there up through a firewall pass-through that I installed, that is where all the inside car power goes. So there's power to the to my bus bar, which is back underneath some of this stuff. You can kind of see it tucked down in there. It's a Blue Sea bus bar. And then there's a wire for the main fuse block to the battery side of the fuse block, and then to the ignition switch. So those are the 3 larger gauge wires that are inside the car. Everything else in the dash is still kind of hanging loose here right now until I get my new dash. I actually ordered from Factory 5 their carbon fiber dash that they now have available for the Coupe, which is really nice looking. It's got a bubble over the instrument cluster. It's raised and formed to look more modern than just the metal dash. There's some question marks that I still have. So that panel is made to fit in the car with this 3/4 inch bar that runs across here. So everything, the dash will still sit and mount, onto this. To make use of all the space that you get with the raised bubble, I'm actually looking at maybe bending a piece of 3/4 to the shape of the dash, and then cutting out, welding that in and cutting out a section of this 3/4. This isn't structural. This is just really there to hang the dash on. So it doesn't have to be, anything that's gusseted or structural. But yeah, we'll see. I've never welded before, so that might be something interesting to watch. Let's see, I've also run the circuit for the driving lights, and I've got wire that'll get tied into the front harness of the car here for those, but I run the other end to wires that'll come out where my AC controller is. The switch that I'm using will be mounted in that AC controller panel. And then there's a small 4-pin relay over here that'll operate that driving light circuit. And I think that is all I really have to share today. So nice quick update, just about 8 minutes, and I'll let you get back to watching other fun stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of other things you're following besides my build, but thanks for coming back and watching, and hopefully this is helping some of you guys out, either with your current builds or deciding if you want to do a build. I absolutely love building these cars. I mean, this is the second one. My first one has been on the road now for a little over 8 years, and I'm in love with the concept that Factory 5 provides. It gives us some really awesome capabilities to make some really neat looking cars, really good performing cars, and have something that turns a lot of heads. So anyway, have fun, and keep checking back for updates. We'll talk to you again in a couple weeks.